All right. For those of you who are just joining us, I apologize. We're about 15 minutes into the class. I forgot to begin it. Up to this point, we have begun to talk about the uses of Shema, not as a biblical text, but how it's used in Jewish life. I've talked a bit about Shema at the beginning of life, talked about Shema at the end of life, and particularly about the passage in the Talmud about Rabbi Akiva and his using Shema on his deathbed. If you're not with us and you're interested in this material, all you have to do is email me and I will send you some of it. At this point, I want to open it up for questions as to anything I've discussed up to this point. Any questions, anyone? Yeah, Saul.
I'm looking at the art scroll, which I have, the art scroll Siddur, and they have something here called Vidui al Shechiv Mara. Now it starts out with Modeh Ani Lefanecha, but there's nothing here that indicates Shema Yisrael. And I think I've heard this before. It's the last thing you say before you pass on. Yeah. But they have a different. They have a very short prayer here.
Yes, so there is a longer version of it, which, in addition to the Vidui, ends with Shema. So I think the other thing is that the Vidui, right, this confessional, is generally not said. Right, you're going to say it when you think death is coming. You're not saying it at the very last moment when you feel like you're drifting away. So in some ways, it's not surprising that it's there, but there are fuller versions which include it. Any other questions or comments about Shema at the beginning or end of life, or anything else about the Shema simply as a biblical passage? Okay, so I'm going to change the view back. And now I want to talk about Shema in the liturgy and how it functions. First thing I want to say is that it says, and we talked about this a little bit last time, it said you should say these words when you lie down and when you rise up. And we looked last time at a little bit of a disagreement between the school of Hillel and the school of Shammai. You remember that the school of Shammai says, well, you actually have to be lying down in the evening, and you actually have to be standing up when you lie down and when you stand up. No, Hillel says it's the time at which you lie down, and it's the time at which you rise up. In other words, within a specific time frame in the evening, and within a specific time frame in the morning. So this is a mitzvah that gets fulfilled twice a day, the recitation of the Shema, once in the evening and once in the morning. And it doesn't have, you don't intrinsically need to do that in the context of a prayer service, right? You could just recite Shema at the end of the day and at the beginning of the day. But it has become, the fulfillment of this mitzvah has become incorporated into the service of saying the Amidah, the evening prayers in the morning, and the evening prayers in the evening and the morning prayers in the morning. And one other thing, of course, is that's not the only time we see Shema in the liturgy. In the preliminary early morning service, Shema sometimes appears, depending on the Siddur. Shema appears in the Musaf service on Shabbat during the Kedusha. When we repeat it, there is a section where we say Shema Yisrael. We generally sing it out loud. It's used, we say Shema actually when we're taking the Torah, before we take the Torah out of the ark on Shabbat, right? So Shema, that sentence, Shema Yisrael Adonai Eloheinu Adonai Echad, is actually used liturgically in a number of different places. But that's not really the Shema. That's a line. It's a sentence. And it has a certain liturgical purpose. I don't want to go into each place. But we're talking about the use now of Shema to fulfill the mitzvah, which is commanded that these words you should say at night and in the morning. So I'm going to share my screen again. And we're going to move to, oh, well, okay, wait a minute. I need to do something here. How do I get behind this? No. All right, bear with me. All right, I have to gonna put you down. Wait, you cannot use my Zoom. Okay. I will figure this out. Give me a half a second. I'm gonna share my screen. I'm gonna do this. It's because this is on top. Huh. Maybe that's it. No. I'm not sure how to do this.
Can you close the other one?
I did it. Okay, I did it. Okay, can everybody see this?
Yes.
Okay,
Yes.
so this is the Shema in the Siddur. And actually, the Shema functions as a unit. It's not just the paragraph V'ahavta. It's not even the 3 paragraphs. It comes as part of our service. It's always surrounded by blessings. There's 2 blessings before it, and there's 1 blessing after it. 2 in the evening, but generally in the morning it's 2 and 1. You can see the Shema here. First we have the blessings, and then we have Shema, and we have this Baruch Adonai Barach Li Olam Vaed, which I'm going to talk to about in a minute. So we're looking at it in its context. Before we look at these specific blessings, I want to say something about sort of where it is in the service in general. If you think about it, and it's clearer in the evening service, there are 3 essential elements to the evening service. A little bit comes before, a little bit after, but essentially you have Baruch Hu, which is the call to prayer, which means, hey, we are praying together as a community. And so the leader says, bless God who is to be blessed. And the congregation answers, the leader says, Baruch Hu et Adonai Barach, and the congregation answers, yes, God is to be blessed. And then we're going to move to the Shema, and then we're going to do the Amidah, which is really the prayer, central prayer. And that's when we talk to God, if you will. So first the leader says, hey, we're all praying together. Then we have the Shema, and then we talk to God. So what is the Shema? What's its function in that place? I think its function is to remind us that why are we praying to God? God loves us and we love God. In other words, it's about relationship. First, we say we're here to pray. Then we remind us of our relationship with God and God's relationship with us. And then we address God in prayer. And so if you look at the prayer immediately, here we go. Here we have, okay. Yeah, okay, so here we have Baruch Hu. And then we have a paragraph, the first paragraph in the evening, we're talking about how God rolls away light and darkness and creates the evening. And now we have the blessing before Shema. And look at this. This is what we say in the Siddur immediately before Shema. Avat olam beit Yisrael amcha achavta. With an everlasting God, love. You, God, have loved the house of Israel. You taught us Torah and commandments, statutes and laws. When we lie down and when we rise up, we will discuss your statutes, rejoice in the words of your Torah. They are our life and the length of our days, right? May your love never be removed from us. And then we say, Shema Yisrael Adonai Eloheinu, right here, O Lord, here, O Israel, the Lord our God, Lord is one. We have another line, I'm going to skip it. And then V'ahavta et Adonai Elohecha. And you should love your God with all. God loves us. We should love God. And then here we again talk about saying the words and where they are, just as we did in the paragraph before. So what we have here, and then we're going to go on to a second paragraph, and then which also mentions in the second paragraph, which comes from chapter 11, and we'll look at it when we come to it when we're studying Deuteronomy. You should teach them to your children, speak of them when you sit down, when you travel by the road, you should write them on the doorpost, right? Same kind of stuff. And then a third paragraph, which talks about tzitzit, and really it talks about putting fringes on the corners of your garments, and that you should do this. I took you out of Egypt. So that's a little bit different. I'm not going to talk about it because it would take us too far afield. But those three paragraphs really constitute the Shema, and then they're followed by a paragraph afterwards, which is Adonai Elohechem Emet and Emet V'Na, and so on. So I want to come back to this little sentence, which seems to interrupt the Shema, right in the Torah. Shema Yisrael Adonai Eloheinu Adonai Echad V'Ahavta et Adonai Elohim, right? But when it's said in synagogue, when we're fulfilling the obligation to say Shema in shul, we say in an undertone, Baruch Shem Kavod Malchuto Le'olam Va'ed. We don't say it out loud. So we go Shema Yisrael Adonai Eloheinu Adonai Echad Baruch Shem Kavod Malchuto Le'olam Va'ed V'Ahavta et Adonai Elohecha. You follow? So what is this? This comes from an interesting midrash. So the midrash is Jacob is now on his deathbed. Remember that Jacob is also Israel, right? Jacob has two names. He's Yaakov and he's Yisrael. Anyway, he's on his deathbed. His children are all gathered around him and with his grandchildren. And he says to them, he's concerned that they will keep the faith, as it were, when he's gone. And particularly Joseph has now married an Egyptian woman, and he has children by her there. So Jacob is concerned, and what do Jacob's children say? Shema Yisrael, hear Israel, that is Jacob, listen Jacob, Adonai Eloheinu Adonai Echad, our God is Adonai, alone, right? Don't worry, Dad or Grandpa, we're keeping the faith. And then Jacob says, Baruch Shem Kavod Malchuto Le'olam, blessed be God's name, his glorious kingdom is forever, right? So it becomes a kind of call and response. We do say this line out loud only on Yom Kippur. We say it only on Yom Kippur because Yom Kippur is the day when we think of God's kingdom as being most manifest. And it's one of the ways we distinguish Yom Kippur from the rest of the days of the year, that we make this change. We say this aloud when we're saying Shema. Okay, I am going to open things up one more time. Let me stop sharing. To actually what I'm going to do. Oh, now I have to get so I made it go away, and now I have to get it back. How do I get it back?
Stop share.
Sandy, I hear you if you have a suggestion.
Stop share. Did you try stop share?
I'm looking for the stop share. That's my problem.
Oh, bring it up. Bring the, like, hover near the top of the screen, and it should show you. Or else
Right,
close the window, X out.
The thing at the top of the screen disappeared. I made it go away, so I don't know how to get it back.
Can you X out the window?
X out which window?
Like it
The one
says see door. Yeah, there.
No,
And the
just
other
It
There's
just
another
brings-
one.
Let me see if I put this down. No. I apologize, everybody. I tried to do something today that, oh, wait a minute. No, here I am. Let's make this bigger. Yeah, this is it. Okay. All right. Give me a second. Trying to make this bigger. No, I can't even make it bigger. Ugh. Bear with me. There we go. I'm getting it somewhat bigger, but you're seeing me, right? I'm not seeing you.
Yeah, we see you.
Now I see you because you're talking. Wait, maybe I figured this out now. No. No. All right.
Do you have a window on the right that you can just make large?
I can see you now. I can see everybody, so I'm not gonna worry about it. We're just gonna stay in this view. And I want to open it up for questions before we go on. We talked about the use of Shema in the liturgy. I want to talk about tefillin and mezuzot for a minute, but before I do, any questions or comments? Sandy and then Saul.
So, Rabbi, could you talk about sometimes we cover our eyes when we say Shema?
Yeah, okay, thank you. So when we recite Shema when we're fulfilling the mitzvah as part of this service, there is this idea that saying the word Shema Yisrael Adonai Eloheinu Adonai Echad has to be done with great concentration, because we are really with full intention and kavanah, with no distractions. Right? You have to really focus on, now I am accepting God as my King, my God. Right? And so the tradition is to put your hand to blot out any distractions while you're saying that word, to put your hands over your eyes. Now, if you think about the last paragraph also of the Shema, which comes from Numbers, right? And in that paragraph, we talk about how we are not to be led astray by the no, I'm sorry, it's not as part of seats. Yeah, as part of seat, right? You should make fringes on your garments, and you should look at them, and you should remember God's commandments, and not be led astray by the inclinations of what you see with your eyes, or the inclinations of your heart, in that last paragraph. So here we're keeping ourselves from being led astray by what we see with our eyes. It's fundamentally, though, about concentration. Thanks for asking. Saul, question?
Yeah, I don't remember if you said this before because I had to leave for a few minutes, but there's something here from Devarim Rabbah. This is in the Art Scroll. It said, Moses heard this prayer from the angels and taught it to Israel. We dare not say it aloud because we are sinful and therefore unworthy of using an angelic formula. But on Yom Kippur, however, when Israel elevates itself to the sin-free level of angels, we may proclaim it loudly. So this is midrash, I guess.
There is a midrash, and that's certainly one of the reasons why it's said aloud on Yom Kippur. But I think the reason it's there.
But there's something else, that the Reform movement does it all the time. They say Baruch Shem.
Yeah, they do. But you know, their prayer book is not nearly as guided by halacha.
True.
and it's ours. But
and they don't do V'hayim Shemoah either.
No, they don't do V'hayim Shemoah because of its emphasis on reward and punishment.
Okay.
Which makes it a difficult, right? If you follow the commandments, then you'll get rain, and if you don't, the earth will not give up its produce, and so on. We come to V'hayim Shemoah when we look at it in chapter 11. I'll talk about that a bit. Okay. We have very little time left. I want to just briefly talk about tefillin and mezuzah. I'll start with mezuzah, right? So these words you should put upon the doors of your house and on your gates. So the idea here is, this again is about liminality. This is a point of transition from the inside to the outside. Mezuzah, the word mezuzah literally means doorposts, right? That's what it is. You're putting something on the mezuzah. Now, the thing you put on the mezuzah has become known as a mezuzah, but that's where it comes from, right? So the doorposts are already important. When at the Exodus, they painted the blood of the Paschal Lamb on the doorposts, right? There's a very important space. In ancient times, people did write things on their doorposts. The gates are generally the gates of the city, but the gates of the city are also where courts were held, where all kinds of legal proceedings took place. So this was a place where the law had to be remembered, right? And it made sense to do it there. One of the most thrilling things I know of, I saw once, it sort of thrilled me, was going to the old city of Jerusalem, and if you walk through the gates, you'll see that there are mezuzahs on the gates, literally fulfilling the mitzvah of putting these on your gates. This is not, by the way, if you have a fence around your house and a swinging gate in that fence, that's not what it's talking about. What are the doorposts of your house? At very minimum, it's the front, it's the entrances and exits to the house itself. Right? Generally, however, it's been regarded as the entrance and exits to rooms in which people live. And therefore, there is a tradition. This is not really what the biblical text is saying, but there's a tradition of putting mezuzot on every door that goes into a living space, not on a garage, not on a bathroom, because these are divine words and they don't quite belong in the bathroom. But I often tell people, well, front door, back door, if you come in and out, and at least the bedrooms. But again, that's the tradition. The words themselves, this is a piece of Torah. And it's written the way it had the same rules of writing a Torah scroll. It has to be written with parchment. It has to be written with a specific kind of ink. It has to be written by hand. All of that applies to the parchment that goes into a mezuzah, right? And the same thing is true of tefillin. And for that reason, it's also meant to be checked, because it's written by hand, it's written on parchment, etc. It can disintegrate slightly. And there's a tradition that every 7 years one should take down one's mezuzot and check them and make sure that they're still clear. Remember also that the mezuzah is not a box. The box is actually known in Hebrew as a bait, like a house, right? The cloth, the parchment, is what we call the mezuzah. Putting up a box with nothing in it doesn't accomplish anything. There's an old joke about someone who hires, a carpenter who's doing things for him, and he puts them all up. So I want you to put these on my doorposts on the right side. They should lean in a little bit. The carpenter says, no problem. And then he says, he puts them all up, and then he goes to the owner of the house and he says, here, what should I do with the instructions? And he hands them all the parchments. So it seems clear that at a certain point, maybe early on, people simply wrote the words, right? And in fact, the Samaritans, who I mentioned last time, who do accept, though they don't accept the idea of tefillin literally, they do accept the idea of mezuzah, and they just write the words of the Shema right on the doorpost. It's not clear exactly what we put in the Shema today, what we put in the mezuzah today, is the first two paragraphs. It's the ones from Deuteronomy. here, Shema Yisrael, and then also chapter 11. They've discovered some ancient mezuzot with the Dead Sea Scrolls. At least one of them had the 10 Commandments in it. So it seems to have been fluid at a certain point in time. There is a tradition of kissing the mezuzah when you enter or leave a space, or touching it with your fingers and kissing your fingers, right? Not at all required. It's simply a sign of piety, really an affection. And remember what's in there. You should love the Lord your God with all your heart. So this is a kind of a loving gesture. It fundamentally is a reminder when we enter the house. This is a Jewish house. This is where the words of Torah live. And when we leave, it's a reminder to take that out with us as we go out into the world.
Yeah.
It's also a marker of a Jewish house, right? And I think for many of us, if you move to a new neighborhood or you go to a house and, oh, there's a mezuzah on the door, it's Landsman. One of us lives here, and there is that sense, I'm with my tribe, as it were. If I were to get broken down on the highway and didn't have a cell phone with me and I had to go try to find a neighbor there, I'd be very happy to see a mezuzah on the door. Although the truth is, there's no more likelihood that a Jew would help me than a non-Jew. Still, I would feel better, I guess. So leave that aside. Okay, so that's what I have to tell you about mezuzot. One other thing, if you move into a new place, you have 30 days to put it up before the obligation doesn't begin for 30 days because it has to be a permanent living place, not a temporary one, which is also why you don't have a mezuzah on a sukkah, right? Same idea. It's temporary by its nature, temporary. No need if you're moving into a hotel room for a week, no need to put a mezuzah on the door. And because a mezuzah, putting this parchment on your doorpost is really about a living space. Synagogues actually don't need mezuzahs. We do it. It's universal, right? Do all the rooms in a synagogue need mezuzot? Actually, none of them need mezuzot. But again, there's nothing wrong with it. It's not a violation. And it is a way of marking a Jewish space. And so I know very few synagogues where there aren't multiple mezuzot within the building. But strictly speaking, it's about a living space. Okay, let me ask if you have any questions about mezuzot, anything that I've mentioned up until now. Anything at all. Marilyn.
What do you do with the mezuzah?
When it's no longer kosher. Yes?
Right.
Okay. So the first thing you do is obviously you take the parchment out. The parchment is what you have to discard, right? Because you could easily put a new parchment into the housing and put that up. You just like other sacred objects, they need to be buried. You can't simply toss it out. The easiest way, you could literally bury it yourself. Generally speaking, people give them to synagogues which have genizas where they put things like that. And people are always bringing me mezuzot, which I would dispose of. And sometimes I was able to use them, show kids what the mezuzahs look like in the classrooms and so on. But you don't throw them out. You can't throw them out. It's actually much more sacred even than a prayer book, right? Because it's handwritten, it's on parchment, it's a piece of a Torah scroll in a fundamental way. If you move from a house, you should take the mezuzahs with you, but if Jews live there, you're obliged to leave them. It's if you don't know who's coming in, or and you can, of course, ask. Mezuzot are expensive, right? So you can ask, do you need me to lead the mezuzot? And the new owners may well say no, but that's the tradition. You can't take them with you because you want to make sure that the next person is fulfilling this mitzvah. I mentioned that they get checked once every 7 years, but I do want to say in the strongest possible terms that this is not about superstition. There's a terrible thing that happened years ago. You might remember, I think it was in Kiryat Shmona in Israel, there was a terrorist attack in a school and children were murdered. And there was a statement by a Chabad rabbi from there who said, it turned out that the mezuzahs in the school weren't kosher. As though somehow, let's put the best spin on it. Somehow they would have been protected, right? Not that they were being punished because they had an unkosher, but this whole idea that the mezuzah somehow protects us, and if the mezuzah isn't kosher, we don't have the protection. I have to say it's just an abhorrent idea. And it does not have a place in the Jewish tradition. I don't know of any midrash it's just repugnant, and it really it makes God, it's blasphemous in a way to say that that's what God is about. That somehow, God will protect you if you have this and not if you're not, and all of that. So I do want to emphasize that. Any other questions about mezuzahs or anything? I will talk about tefillin next time, just briefly, because there's just not time to do it. Anything else? Well, I apologize. This thing has been a little chaotic today. I particularly apologize to those of you who are watching us on the recording that I missed the first part of it. And for that, again, if you want to get in touch with me, I can at least send you some of the texts that I showed during the class. We are not meeting next week. It's Purim. I want to wish you a Zissin Purim, a happy Purim. I hope you will go to shul. You'll listen to the Megillah being read, at least read the book of Esther on your own. It's a fabulous book. Interesting book. We will meet again in 2 weeks and basically pick up where we are. Any other questions or comments? We just have 2 minutes. So if you do, now's the time. Okay, everybody. Well, Chag Purim Sameach. Have a wonderful Purim, and I hope to see you 2 weeks from today. Be well, everyone.
You
Thank
too.
you.
Thank you very much.
Bye. I can't seem to turn it off. I don't know what I did to myself, but
Look in the lower right-hand corner of your screen.
yeah, there's a little, no, you know what? I somehow, in order to make things, there's nothing in the lower right-hand corner of my screen.
If you move the cursor there.
Yeah, I have the cursor there.
It doesn't say leave.
No, because I somehow managed to eliminate all of the various controls. I made them disappear, and I don't know how to get them back. I'm sure there's a way to get them back.
Rabbi, look in the bottom of your very bottom, the horizontal bar down there. Do you see anything there that looks like
There
it's Zoom?
is no bar on the bottom anymore.
When you hover, bring your cursor down.
Yeah, I know. I've got it down. There's no bar anymore.
But I saw something. You can move it down again, please. You see that stuff down there? Search everything down there.
Oh, down here, yeah.
Yeah, right. Move over. I see the one that says Zoom after the
Yeah, I
W.
did that. Yeah, I
Click
did
that.
that. Now I'm pushing Zoom.
You click it once. Okay, there you are.
Yeah, so now what?
No, click it once. And let go.
Yeah,
No,
clicking it once.
it goes away.
Yeah, I'm just not seeing it here. There's Zoom behind. See, there is that. But I'm
I
not sure
think-
how to. You see this, I've got this, but
I
that's
think
not
you're
the same.
Yeah, sorry. I think you're still in share screen. I don't know. Can you?
Yeah,
are
but
you-
I can't seem to get out of it.
All right, if you move the cursor up toward the top of the screen, you don't see anything there. It says stop share.
No, I made all of that. Look, see, nothing's coming up. I made it all disappear when I was trying to switch from one text that I wanted to show to another. And I close, see if I close, I'll try, now I can close the other one, but I can't close this one. I may have, I may have to simply, reboot my computer to
Right.
make it disappear. I think I'm gonna do that.
Okay.
Good to see you, Sandy.
Nice seeing you, Rabbi.
Okay. I'm gonna try to do that.
All right. I was just,
Yeah.
if you want, I'll try to, we can try, but if you want to reboot.
No, it's no big deal. You don't have to disappear. I'm just now trying to remember how to reboot this thing. I thought there was something here.
You hold 3 keys down. Control Alt
Sorry?
Delete.
Yeah. I mean, there is a. It's what a day this has been. All
Well,
right.
You
Yeah,
there are
what's
2 ways to
this?
do it. You can eat
Yeah. No, that's not it either.
if
Here
you
it
hold.
is. I got it.
Okay.
That's it. Bye,
That's-
Sandy.
Wait,
Talk
Rabbi,
to you.
wait.